David Weck here, teaching you a WeckMethod coiling core exercise with the RMT club to maximize rotational power to perform better in virtually any sport. I'm going to show you what the exercise looks like. I'm going to describe to you in great detail how and why it works, and then I'll break the exercise down so that you can do it. Here's what it looks like. It's a lunge setup. I'm doing an overhand motion with the club, and I'm creating rotation as if I'm striking my elbow forward at the down moment. So it's here, it all comes together. Boom. Now, I'll break that down in great detail so that you can get every step to do it, but now I'm going to take a moment to talk about how and why it works, why we do it this way. It all comes down to harnessing what we call the spinal engine. The spinal engine is the source of rotational power, and everything else in the body is there to express that power. It has to do with the spine is curved, so when I side bend, it creates the rotation. When I side bend, the shoulder goes down and back, the hip comes up and forward. So it creates this coiled rotation that is stronger and safer than just transverse rotation without the side bend. The only way that I can rotate without the side bend safely is to pivot so that my spine isn't actually rotating. Here, my spine stays as one column and it doesn't rotate. The only way that rotation can be most powerful and safest is with the side bend. You can analyze it in throwing, punching, hitting. There's always a side bending action. So that's why we have the coiling core. Now with this, we're doing overhand circles like we would in throwing. Running is an underhand circle. That's the pattern that we use in running. Regardless, they're both the same in terms of the coiling effect, because when the shoulder's back and down, regardless of how I got there, whether it's here or here, here or here, once I'm down and back, that's driving this up and forward. And as I apply it to a run, it's here, boom, that coil, and then it's boom, landing with the head over the foot. And as I apply it to a throw, I'm planting and rooting, and this is driving up and forward while this is coming down to, boom, create more drive and more coil of rotation. It's the heart of WeckMethod rotational movement training. Now, I'm going to break this exercise down in great detail so you can get it, all right? There's nothing more powerful than this WeckMethod rotational movement training, and the RMT Club is the perfect tool for it. So, I'm going to set up in a lunge, but rather than a conventional lunge where I'm back and the knee's not going forward to the toe, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the ball of my foot, and if I match the angle of my spine with the angle of my shins, it's still back here. It's not quad dominant, it's not in the knee, because I've arranged the body with what we call tensional balance. That makes the force go to and from the ground with great power and no restriction, and it lets us harness the big posterior through the ball of the foot. So that's the setup. Now, first you choke up on the club. I'm in the setup, and I'm just going to perform circles overhand like this, and my emphasis is when I get down to here, that's when I want to drive forward into the lunge. I'm sinking but driving the hip up and forward, and I'm contracting and bringing that shoulder down and back, so there's a pulse and a timing when I'm creating that and that. As I sink my weight, the hip goes up and forward. Now, to get the full effect of this, I'm going to take the other hand and I'm going to send the elbow out, and I'm going to rotate the palm forward, drive across my body like I'm striking forward with the elbow. And it's that combination that creates the length on this side with the coil on this side that's going to give us that amazing rotational power. So when I put it all together, it looks like this. I'm set up in the lunge. I'm coming overhand here, and then I pulse, and I pulse, and I pulse, and I pulse. And I don't want this to open up. I don't want the hip to sink down. I want to pulse my weight and drive the hip up and forward. So from the front, looks like this. I'm going to be nice and solid. Head is right over the foot, full posterior engagement, big overhand circle, and then I pulse it, boom, I pulse it, boom, and it's boom, that contraction. I can release the choke up and go faster with the club. Now, when I'm done with the exercise, I'm obviously going to do both sides, but when I'm done with the exercise, I have that better position of that coil. Spinal engine being fully harnessed to use rotation to help power the extension and the flexion. And like I said, overhand or underhand, doesn't matter. Both situations get me to down and back, up and forward, and the better I learn that, the tighter I can make that coil, the more balanced my body can be to both sides with that coil, the more powerful I can rotate and express athletic power. That's a WeckMethod coiling core exercise with the RMT club.